Hello again, I'm Steve Jones and this is the Travel Today wrap-up where I'll bring you this week's major stories from the travel industry. If you're one of those people who likes number crunching, then this week was for you. Of course, it's financial reporting season with a number of companies from the travel sector releasing their annual results this week. First up was Qantas, which of course is very rarely out of the headlines these days. The carrier announced an underlying pre-tax profit of $552 million in the 12 months to June the 30th, and that's despite Qantas International, its flagship carrier, losing $216 million. Now, if you thought that sounds like a pretty strong set of figures from Qantas, you'd be absolutely right. If you thought most people would be happy with that, you'd be wrong. Nothing is quite that simple in the world of Qantas. The figures were so good that it had critics arguing that it validated their objection to the impending launch of a full-service airline in Asia, a plan flagged by Chief Executive Alan Joyce earlier this month. At the results this week, those same critics accused Qantas of moving figures around the business in order to present a grimmer picture for Qantas International than is actually the case. Joyce had used the financial predicament of Qantas International as justification for his plan to launch an airline in Asia. Absolutely ludicrous was Joyce's rebuttal to those claims of effectively cooking the books, and he likened the conspiracy theorists to those who question whether man landed on the moon and who believe Elvis is working at a McDonald's in Manly. Now, that latter claim is clearly ridiculous because we all know he's working at Burger King in Surrey Hills. Expect this story to run and run. Unions won't back down in this argument, and neither will Joyce. He'll pursue his plans fairly vigorously. There was some better news this week for Qantas, with the competition regulator giving draft approval for its alliance with American Airlines. On to the retail sector now, and Flight Centre confirmed to the market what it told Travel Today the previous week, that it's going to struggle to hit its financial targets in the current financial year. The retailer posted record pre-tax profits of $213 million in the year to June, but said it's going to take some effort to hit its targets this year. The retailer said it approached the financial year with crossed fingers and toes. Still with retail, but to the online arena and to What If. The company reported a 3.8% decline in pre-tax profits to $51 million, a decline it blamed largely on the rush to head overseas as people look to exploit the strength of the Australian dollar. What If Chief Executive Robbie Cook also warned that consumer confidence is likely to take a pretty dramatic dive in the next few months. However, he said that could well play into the hands of What If. The company has been at its strongest in times of economic hardship, he said, largely because people dispel with big ticket items such as overseas travel and holiday closer to home. And of course, What If specialises in the domestic market, so perhaps we will see a bounce back there from What If. Back to aviation, and Virgin Australia flagged to the market some time ago that it was likely to sink heavily into the red, and indeed it did, to the tune of $66.6 million. The familiar story of natural disasters was blamed for the decline, and John Borghetti, the chief executive, said it backed up its Game Change programme in that it wants to chase the more resilient corporate and government market. Finally, on the financial front, to Air New Zealand, which had a bit of a shocker of a second half of the financial year, losing 37 million New Zealand dollars. And no prizes for guessing why. Of course, it was hit by events in Christchurch and Japan. The carrier did manage to post a full year profit of 75 million New Zealand dollars, propped up by a pretty strong first half, but that figure was 45% less than the previous financial year. The carrier also announced it is to review its long-haul network after posting losses of $1 million per week in the first 6 months of the calendar year. Briefly to other news, and Captain Cook Cruises was acquired this week by Sea-Link Travel Group for an undisclosed sum. And finally, Accor announced that it is eyeing a couple of new build opportunities in CBD locations or airports. So we'll keep you up to date with all those developments. That's it for now. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back with another Travel Today wrap-up, same time, same place next week. Until then, have a good week. Take care.